Meet Yamada, a stunning high school model who has the enthusiasm of a cheerleader and the appetite of a lioness, and Ishikawa, a scrawny weeb who manages to get close enough to attract her attention. Dreams do come true, huh? It was a casual day at school, and Ichikawa was planning on invading the world, or at least becoming the next Jack the Ripper. His thirst for blood was on a whole other level. Now what is a scrawny little kid like him doing fantasizing about murder? I bet you can knock him down with a table tennis racket. However, if there is one reason to continue watching this show, it's certainly because of the gorgeous food junkie, Yamada. Ichikawa started stressing out after finding her in his safe haven, the silent library reserved for socially anxious nerds. Not only did she trespass on his territory, but she was disrupting his peace with her weird behaviors. Upon sensing his opportunity, he jumped right in and gave her his box cutter. Talk about a live savior. However, the bell rang and she walked away with it. To add insult to injury, she started bossing him around. Talk about a pathetic lowlife. Does this man have no dignity? It was time for their class presentation, and he started getting upset after he saw another student change her work. Since when were serial killers the jealous type? Throughout the whole presentation, Yamada felt bored, and once they were done, she went to her seat and started crying. Ichikawa didn't want anyone to see her, and ended up cutting the presentation as a distraction. Yap, this guy sure is smitten by her. No one is blaming him though. Anyone would have fallen head over heels for a hottie like her. She's the type of woman one might consider waifu material. Upon going to his sacred hiding spot, another student, Hara, walked in as well. It seems that she was waiting for someone, and that someone was Kanzaki, who had a crush on her. He tried to confess his feelings, but Yamada interrupted them and made the whole situation awkward. Ichikawa dropped a book and tried acting like a cat to disguise himself. Luckily, Yamada joined him, and they all had fun in the end. Upon walking back home, he entered a store to purchase Yamada's magazine. Apparently she was a model and went to the store looking to give autographs. She did look professional in those pictures. The following day, Ichikawa saw her talking with another man and was heartbroken. He even ended up stalking them. How did they not notice him? When the guy started getting aggressive, Ichikawa threw his bike and made a huge scene. Envy does make people do weird things. Or was it love? Back at school, he was still afraid to approach her and watched from the shadows. It seems that she was running around in a clumsy fashion looking for water. He tried to help her by bringing a glass of water, but was too late. She did notice his effort and ended up giving him her trash. This hottie has serious bossy issues. Being a model does make you feel entitled. The boys were unable to handle it, and the girls were completely oblivious of this. Yamada, for one, is only interested in eating and bossing Ichikawa around. This time, she took away his fan and left him hanging. Just then, her best friend Kobayashi barged in looking for her, but for some reason, Yamada was hiding from her. She sat down and started explaining their relationship to him. The foolish klutz gave up and revealed herself then. A little while later, everyone gathered to help with the upcoming event. It seems that Hara accidentally wrote something on the poster, and the boys ganged up on Ichikawa, ready to beat him to a pulp. Thankfully, Hara came to his aid, and the situation was quickly resolved. Later on, she walked up to him, asked him to make her look scary. He tried his best but chickened out and left in a hurry, like a wimp. This guy will never find love with this attitude, not with Yamada at least, since she's looking for someone who is confident. However, this is his story, and the girl keeps on running into him by accident. At least this time, he mustered the courage to ask for a picture. Yamada certainly made his day with that. The following day, Ichikawa was lost in thought thinking about his drawings. My guy has even included Yamada in his fantasy. He has fallen for her deeply. Later on, he felt a bit ill and went to the nurse to get checked. But guess who was already there? The plot-driven coincidence. The wimpy fool was caught staring. But fortunately, Yamada didn't mind, since she saw him as her little pet experiment. The irony of the matter is, she went in due to her stomach aches, but kept on munching on sweets regardless. Some people don't learn, do they? After she left, Ichikawa found her shirt and fought all his demons not to take it. However, his guardian angel came along and threw it on top of him. That's one way to fulfill his perverted needs. Back in class, Ichikawa was getting annoyed by the boys' attempt to fool around with the girls. Things didn't go well, since the girls gave him the death stare. Ichikawa, on the other hand, gave her a drawing he made of her and ran outside. While the boys kept on teasing the girls, Ichikawa's wrath was growing rampant. Everyone was bonding, except for Ichikawa and Yamada. Back in the library, Yamada suspected him of stealing her candy and bullied the truth out of him. My guy fell to his knees, though. I guess this was the first time he's ever been touched by a woman aggressively. It was now time for PE class, and they all went to the gym. It was basketball session, and Ichikawa shared a moment with Yamada while everyone else was playing. However, she was caught lacking and broke her nose. Ishikawa wasted no time getting there, and he was caught eavesdropping. He heard Yamada crying since she had a modeling shoot the next day. Things did not go as planned for her, and the following day, she came to school all patched up. She really didn't think much of it, while everyone else seemed worried for her. She eventually succumbed and broke down. Later on, Ishikawa placed tissues in the library as a sign of support. The next day, Ichikawa kept on thinking of Yamada and accepted the fact that he caught feelings. Even in the cafeteria, he kept on staring at her. Same thing in the library, my guy was hooked. Since she knew this, she kept on bossing him around. However, she had a sudden change of heart and asked to go together this time. They went to the science lab, looking to cure cancer, and the teacher found them slacking around. These two have the confidence of a gorilla. Rin tried apologizing to Yamada but went about it the weird way. She even went to the library to try and spark a conversation, but Ichikawa was in the way. He tried finding a way to leave and ran outside. Fortunately, Yamada took the initiative and asked to take a selfie with her. Just then, Rin apologized for hitting her with the ball. Girls are quite forgiving, aren't they? Later on, Ishikawa ran into Yamada as she was leaving the store and gave her a ride home. It's just a matter of time till these two start going out. It's also surprising that he was riding calmly. He must have legs of steel. The next day, the teacher was confronting everyone about snacks he found thrown on the ground. He suspected it was Yamada and demanded she go to his office after class. Yikes, is she in trouble? Later on, Ichikawa went to a fast food joint with his sister, Kana, and there she was, Yamada the clairvoyant. Everyone he goes, she is right there. Does she have tabs on him or something? She tried approaching him and getting a bit aggressive. Does that mean she also likes him? A few hours later, Ichikawa joined Yamada inside the teacher's office and tried to defend her right. This guy would turn out as a great lawyer. Even the teacher was impressed. As a present, she gave him one of her candies. Now that's how you know she likes him too. The next day, the teacher gave assignments and asked everyone to choose their group. Everyone got together, and Ishikawa was left alone. Luckily, he found a couple of boys, and together they approached the girls looking to make a fuss. The girls discussed among themselves and couldn't choose any of them. Back in the library, Ishikawa was blushing, thinking of Yamada. Meanwhile, Hara and Yamada were kicking things off. Since when did these two become besties? Perhaps they found common ground. Must be boys. Yes, it was. What else would girls talk about? In order to commemorate the moment, Yamada took a selfie with her and shared some candies. This must be her love language. They walked up to Ishikawa and started teasing him for no reason. Later on, it started raining when he was about to leave the school. This caused a conundrum since Yamada forgot to bring her umbrella. What else did you expect from the klutz? However, since she was bossy, she ended up taking his raincoat and promised to bring an umbrella. These two do really trust one another. I can't believe she actually came back. She even bought him an ice cream. It was finally time for the school trip, and all the students were super excited. They went to a manga store, a weeb's favorite place to be. Ishikawa was over the moon when he saw a Baki manga. Truth be told, Hanma Baki is one of the goats of fight anime. While in the elevator, Yamada was so close to him, he almost lost consciousness. While they were walking back home, they started chatting about mangas, and Ishikawa wanted to use the restroom. Things didn't go as planned, since the rest left them. Talk about bad luck. They rushed towards the train at top speed, but were too late. Yamada started crying, and Ichikawa was in a state of panic. He tried to at least buy her a drink and cheer her up. What do you know? It actually worked. The train ride back home felt awkward, and Ishikawa was worried someone would recognize her since she was a model. She started manhandling him from behind until they arrived, and they finally met up with the group who seemed crazy, worried. Back at home, his sister was teasing him about enjoying school, and we all know why. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary, and E. Come on, sing along, we all know how it goes. Yamada stopped his bike and gave him the mangas. She really remembered their conversation. Later on, they met at the library as usual, and while they were arguing over a book, Yamada crashed into him, fulfilling his wildest dreams. They both felt ashamed, and she walked away. Ishikawa dedicated his time to reading the manga and was hell-bent on finishing it soon. He met up with her in the library, and she was worried after seeing a "Don't Eat" sign posted. She was curious why it was posted and went to the head librarian to ask questions. Apparently, the librarian found a candy wrap and was furious about it, but leave it to Yamada to keep on eating even after it was deemed forbidden. He tried saving her when the librarian walked past, but this caused her emotions to bubble up, and she asked him to leave. He assumed this was the final time he'd see her until she came back the next day. The next day, it was PE class, and everyone was asked to jog. Yamada, for one, looked spectacular while running, even better when she took her jacket off. Quite the stunning specimen, wouldn't you say? Later on, Ishikawa found out that he had Yamada's uniform, and she was wearing his. It really bugged him, and he tried giving her signs, but she took it as a sign of appreciation. She went through the entire day wearing it, and eventually swapped. She then suggested measuring their heights, and Ishikawa refused to do so. Later on, everyone was talking about a new movie Yamada was in, but for some reason, she felt depressed. The teacher walked in and announced the seat change. Everyone drew lots, and Yamada was stuck in front of Ishikawa. The shorty couldn't see anything at all, but Hara volunteered to help, sparking the jealousy of Yamada. However, he rizzed her up and lightened up her day. Back at the library, he mentioned her movie role, and her enthusiasm skyrocketed. She stared into his eyes and started practicing her role. It felt weird, so they transitioned into a narrow room. The proximity was affecting their mood, and Yamada seemed to have enjoyed his presence. Back at home, he was tuned into a show where Yamada was featured in. My Guy Has Fallen Madly. The next day, Yamada came with a grudge and rudely sat on Kobayashi. However, she wasn't having it, and ended up squeezing her melons. These girls surely know how to make a scene. They were feeling somewhat inspired and ended up drawing on the board. It was no Michelangelo, but it was all right. Yamada then went to the library to study with Ishikawa and Koba. That's when she tried teasing them both, and they both fell for it. But this was the least of Ishikawa's concerns, since the parent-teacher conference was dawning near, and he didn't want his Yamada to meet his mom. Even so, fate had other plans for our young chap, and the two started conversing like buddies. She even gave Yamada some candy. How thoughtful of her. After the meeting, Yamada caught them both and couldn't stop speaking about it inside the library. She reluctantly asked him to tutor her in hopes of getting closer to him. Later on, Ishikawa ran into her while cycling back home, and she placed a plastic bag on his head to protect him. He noticed that she had forgotten her groceries and quickly rushed to her. These two seemed to possess a deep affection for one another. Even in his dreams, he kept on seeing her. When the doorbell rang, he couldn't believe his eyes. It was Yamada. Our boy took the shot and invited her in for some tea. Unfortunately for him, he fell on the ground and caught cold. Luckily for him, Yamada stood beside him and helped him out. I'm starting to sense something here. The following day, Yamada tried sparking a conversation, but the fool didn't seem to get a hint. Why is it that men are dense sometimes? Or was he ashamed since she changed his cloth and tucked him in the other day? She even asked him out blatantly, and he refused straight up. This guy certainly has problems. Back in class, Koba asked for his number, and this turned Yamada into a bloodthirsty demon. I'm certain she would have dismantled her if they weren't besties. While she was talking with the other boys, he started getting jealous as well. When did these two start playing games with one another? Ishikawa was getting upset since he wasn't the ideal person for Yamada, and finding her talking to another guy wasn't helping him either. Later on, he found her crying in an empty library, and she asked him to sit with her. However, the girls interrupted their quality time, and she leaned onto him, attempting to get some action. They both chickened out though. When will these two just do it? Yamada wasn't feeling like herself, and Ishikawa was starting to get nervous thinking about it. It's been days since he went to the library, and he even ended up running away from her. She caught up with him and tried to apologize. Look what you did. You made her cry. Thankfully, they made up and hugged it out. Afterward, they made an appointment, or should we call it a date? Yamada was all dressed up and all, makeup and perfume, the whole package, while Ishikawa looked like a creep. The gluttony took over and Yamada insisted they go eat. This is starting to sound like a date. They both started blushing and squirming. The menu shook Ishikawa to his core. Who could blame him? The guy doesn't have a 9-to-5 job. He felt as if he was losing points. Yamada, for one, was a model, so this lifestyle suited her well. Poor guy. He didn't know what he was signing up for. As she got closer, his heart started to beat and his face lightened up. She then took him to a clothing store, but even then, he felt out of place. Is this what it's like going out with a model? While inside, he started giving her compliments and walked her home. Our boy is starting to mature into a confident man. It was getting late, and the lights looked beautiful. While on the train, they finally held hands and things seemed like they were progressing. They didn't let go all the way back to her home, both of them gripping for dear life. As he said goodbye, he couldn't help but feel butterflies in his stomach. Back at home, he tried getting in shape in hopes of impressing her. It was time for the holiday, and Ishikawa went on a vacation with his family. He and Yamada were still chatting, and while he was trying to take a picture for her, my guy fell and sprained his hand. The vacation didn't even start, and he's already injured. This guy is weak. Later on, he got on a video call with Yamada, and it was quite the show. His sister confronted him about it, and how he managed to nail a hottie like that. We're all wondering and would like to hear his side of the story. They continued talking, and it sounded like they were having fun. A few days later, he was in the store and found something to give to Yamada. His sister wouldn't let it slide, but he was on a mission to give her the gift. However, he was in one hell of a surprise when he found that she had a dog. Quite the competition he is going to face. But hey, they ended up holding hands again. These two are just looking for reasons to engage. She absolutely loved the gift, and they both walked back home. The new year was upon them, and Ishikawa had a meeting with Yamada. He went along with his sister, who kept on pushing him around. Fortunately, Yamada came to the rescue, and she met up with his family. These two were slowly getting there. Yamada's love for food took over, and she followed him back home for a nice home meal. As they got in, his sister made them some soup, and Yamada was lost in thought. They started chatting, and they both sandwiched him, trying to get the truth out of him. She even brought his yearbook out to embarrass him and left them both in the empty house. Home alone with your crush. What are you going to do, big guy? They were finally in his room and on his bed. It's now or never, homeboy. Take the leap of faith. She is lying on your bed, and he finally went for it, but it didn't pan out as she ran outside. He is starting to get mixed feelings here. Ishikawa was this close to giving up. The following day, Yamada walked up to him, but he tried playing it cool. This was a confusing relationship, a push and pull vibe. In the end, all he'll get is a measly hug. That's all for this show. Seems like our boy struck out. As always, if you love our content, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends.